And thank you for the recording in progress, Dre. I meant to mention that. Again, we will be recording this and we will be able to offer this out on the Chamber website to the membership. So if they didn't have the ability to attend tonight, they can view this in their own time. So again, with that, we're going to start with some what I call skills and strength questions. So, and I'm going to start with Barb. So again, Barb, if you are elected to this office, what are 2 or 3 of the personal strengths or skills you possess that will be most beneficial to you that you'll bring to this office? So again, let's start with you, Barb.
Well, I think I was born and raised in Moscow, so I think that I know what the city has been able to do in the past and what it hasn't been doing, and I think that I have quite a bit of determination to get us on to a path that would bring us back to community government and a community that would work for everybody and help businesses get going. And I think that I have a pretty good feel for bringing people together that would, building a team, I guess you could call it, that would help bring information from all sides, I guess you could say. Is that good enough for you?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks again, Barb. Olivia, let's go to you. Give me 2 or 3 of your personal strengths or skills you'd bring to the office of mayor.
All right, well, I have a deep love of asking questions and learning things and gaining knowledge. And I think that willingness and that ability to ask people what I guess we can do as a city government or what I can do is something I really pride myself on. I have a deep love of bureaucracy and you know, paperwork isn't necessarily exciting, but being able to understand it and being able to understand how these infrastructural issues work is a joy for me and something I've taken a lot of time to hone. So those are a couple of things.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I've heard that deep love of bureaucracy before, but we'll maybe kind of flush that out going forward. Thanks, Olivia.
We're keeping it fresh. You're welcome.
Very good. All right, Jim Gray, welcome tonight. Let's get you unmuted.
That is one thing I did not do.
You're all right. Go ahead, Jim.
Well, 2 or 3 things. Well, for one, I'm retired out of the military, so there I've had leadership training as well as leadership, leading people to do various sundry things for the military. And after retiring from the Coast Guard, I got a teaching certificate from Missouri Western State University. And I taught at a school for troubled teens for a while. So dealing with difficult circumstances, I've experienced with, especially with the youth, those who were sent to the facility by their parents or those who were sent there by court order. So I figure I've had a variety of learning. I've learned a variety of skills to accomplish the task that needs to be accomplished. I'm not a politician. I've never run for anything before. This will be a first. Was I short or over?
No, you're fine. You are just fine. You know, what you need to pay attention to is the hand of Dre that comes up, and that's a 30-second warning. So everybody's been fine so far. So with that, Art Bedke.
Yeah, strengths and what do I bring to the potential office of mayor? Well, I've been with the city government for 18 years now, a decade with Planning and Zoning Commission, followed by 8 years on the city council. So I've got a pretty good handle on how government works, what is expected from the government, and how to deal with that. Beyond that, I'm a very much of a middle of the road kind of guy with a pragmatic view towards city government. I'm interested in results and solutions more than I am in ideology or party politics, which is exactly why the mayor is a nonpartisan office. I bring to the table also a lot of acquaintances, both within the city and among our regional and state partners, the universities, the counties, the two cities we have going here. We all have to cooperate in a more regional fashion to float all of our boats. And so I bring all of these skills together with a lot of learning over the years about how to get things actually accomplished in the office of mayor.
Good, thanks, Art. And I want to follow up with Barb for just 30 seconds. Barb, you mentioned this term as you described community government. What did you mean by that exactly?
I would just like to get the government back to serving the residents and more responsive to the residents than what I'm seeing. More involved in actually fixing some of the problems that residents are interested in having fixed.
Okay, great. Thanks, Barb. Again, this is a bit of a follow-up and connected to that last statement, and it's really about your management style. Again, you're going to be the CEO of the city of Moscow. And with that, it's about creating the right culture, and it's critical that you do create that right culture. So again, we heard a little bit about this in your last question and responses, but how do you value cooperation in collaboration, both inside City Hall as well as in the community and the larger Palouse? As you have seen, we collaborate across the state line. We sometimes need to blur that. So I just want to hear a little bit about that management style that you might bring to this office. And I will start with you, Olivia.
Well, I think collaboration between cities and towns is hugely important. I remember seeing you out there, Paul, at the Malden and Pine City response to the fires that decimated those towns. And a lot of great people from Moscow and the surrounding cities responded within a matter of days to that. And I think we need to have that attitude as we see our neighbors struggling with water issues, or just in general, we have this opportunity to take a leadership position. And part of leadership is being boots on the ground. I think that a way we can collaborate is not necessarily having the bar be for people to come to City Hall, but City Hall can occasionally come to folks. I know everyone here who's done a campaign has canvassed and gone door to door. I think that should increase after election. I don't think it should stop. I think we should be out there engaging with people and collaborating directly so that they know that they're part of this process.
Great, thanks, Olivia. Okay, Art.
Yeah, as mayor, who's really a form of a CEO for the city, because the city is defined as a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho. So the mayor essentially serves as the CEO, city council is the board of directors. And within all of that, you have the city staff. A lot of the attitude and outlook of the way the city functions devolves from the mayor. Mayor has to be solution-oriented, positive, friendly, set a good attitude for the staff and for the citizens who may want to interact with the city government. So the mayor needs to bring all of these together, plus maintain good relationships with its regional partners, and moreover, maintaining good relationships with the state legislature, who does provide some funding and provides a lot of legislation that impacts cities and counties. And therefore, despite potentially not agreeing full on with a lot of what goes on around the city, one still has to maintain good relationships, be on speaking terms with everybody, and specifically do a lot more listening than talking, do a lot more hearing of what people have to say rather than inflicting and commanding one's own opinion on others. Diversity of opinion is critical, and you get a lot better results out when you listen to a lot of diverse opinions that people might have about any particular issue. So, the 30 seconds, so I'll stop here.
Thanks, Art. Barb, how about you?
I wholeheartedly believe in the diverse opinions. I would like to see our government bring all pertinent information to the table, whether it's following the narrative or not. Yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say, I guess.
Okay, thanks, Barb. And Jim.
Well, I'm fairly, how do you put it? Think like Olivia in the sense of boots on the ground. The leader of any situation should be willing to go and do what he or she would ask their subordinates to do. And I'm also a believer in that the mayor is the felicitator for the city as far as interacting with the populace. There are many issues that need to be addressed as in the city, and the main reason I decided to take this course is the concept of what's called selective respect, and I have a problem with that because there are so much division between I guess you could say the general populace, but not everyone. But there are those who have issues with political parties as well as religious entities. So these things need to somehow be resolved, be it talking with the individuals one-on-one, or just or addressing it from another standpoint of getting the people together who have these problems, to address them and become more talkative. You don't have to agree with somebody to be neighborly towards them, and I've seen that neighborliness dissipate over the last few years.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Great response. Okay, we're going to continue on with this leadership and experience. And this was a question posed by one of our chamber members. And they said, Stephen Covey, entrepreneur, educator, and author of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, said, experience is overrated. In the context of qualifications for elected office, was he right? So just explain yourself. I mean, some of you have never served in public office. So is experience overrated, or are we just looking for the right experience, the wrong experience, or what? And I will start with you, Jim.
Well, pardon me. Experience, I don't think is necessarily necessary for all things, because any CEO of any organization, he or she are going to have vice presidents and supervisors and managers of different genres in their business situation. So if the CEO has an issue or a problem with something, he or she would go to those particular people he needs to talk to, maybe have a boardroom meeting with them, talk with them, and hopefully you don't have any people who are there are yes people, because those are the type of people I would not put in a management or leadership position. Anyone who would go around and say something is when it isn't. So being a leader is more than just being there, so to speak. You have to be more than just there. You have to be your energy has to be there. Your spirit, if you will, has to be there, so that people will know and feel the way that you would like to work with them, so that they can be more productive in accomplishing the tasks that they would like, what would need to be accomplished. So that should be enough, I guess.
Thank you, Jim. Again, so we're talking about experience, this idea of experience is overrated, and how that applies in the context of elected office. Art.
Yeah, experience kind of depends on the job with which it's associated. A lot of jobs, you don't have experience going into a job the first time out the gate, but there's a period of time in which you're trained. And when you communicate with others who are also at your place of work, to provide you with the experience to be able to function fully. However, when it comes to elected office, you need to come equipped with the experience necessary to hit the ground running on day one. There isn't a lot of time to sit and learn the entire system of how to assist in running a municipality. You need to come in knowing what the laws are, how the laws interface with each other, how to watch out for things that are going to be critical that may not seem critical in the beginning, but rapidly become so. And the experience that one derives from either personal experience in other jobs or jobs within the government itself over the years allows one to critically examine the situations that are going on. So from my point of view, having experience with city government is critical. In other jobs, maybe not so much, because there's a training period involved that could last perhaps a year, one full calendar cycle. You don't have that luxury when it comes into your responsibility for being responsive to the citizens of the town who voted for you, and also responsible to the citizens of the town who may not have voted for you. You owe them the same service that you give to the people who did vote. Everyone should receive equal treatment. And as such, that's where experience comes in, to try to sort through parts of issues that may be critical from parts of issues that are just kind of flack, that pass rapidly.
Thanks, Art. Barb, how about you? Experience overrated?
Well, certainly the laws are very important, and thinking ahead is very important. But I think that some of the issues that we're going into right now, we need to think fresh about, and experience. I think a lot of experienced people will just lead you down the same path. Right now, it's kind of a frequent theme in our country where politicians who've been in office are not really serving the people and not really concerned about the community and what the residents are interested in seeing.
So again, you're sort of the opinion that, well, maybe experience, especially with politicians, isn't always the right path forward, right?
I
Is that
don't
what you're
think
saying?
that I don't think that that people who have a lot of experience in government are the people that we should be turning to right now as leaders. People who have experience in government could be good advisors, but right now we have a lot of politicians in this country who are not leading us in the right directions, in my opinion.
Okay. Thanks, Barb. And Olivia.
Thank you. I believe Stephen Covey goes on to say that we should just start with just simple things, like seeking to understand before seeking to be understood. And I think that, to echo what has been said previously, I think that is a critical thing. I think experience is important and expertise is vital, but the ability to make people feel comfortable learning in that space, learning together, I think is important. I mean, I opened with that I have a love of bureaucracy, which is true, which is why I have a master's in public administration with an emphasis on nonprofits and local government. But the difference being, I would like us all to be able to learn together by using that experience that I bring to the table, or whatever one brings to the table, to build a space where someone can start from scratch, where someone can have that experience, because this is a community for everyone. And no matter how much experience I come in with, having worked with the city, having worked with nonprofits, working inner city stuff, like between communities, the city staff, I have never driven a snowplow. I've only driven a bus a few times. A lot of these folks are the experts. I am a facilitator of their knowledge and should be there to uphold them in any possible way. And if I have expertise in that, which I'm proud to say I do, then I hope to bring that to the table.
Great. Thanks, Olivia. Okay. And one more question about this. And I'll start with you, Olivia. Again, we'll follow up with you. So what does success look like for you as the potential mayor of Moscow? And maybe describe a few examples of success or opportunities for success going forward.
I think success for me would be to really see and feel that people are invested in their community, and feel, it was brought up, the selective respect, that I want people that I work with in this community, that I deliver food and water to feel like they have just as much of a voice in this community as anybody else. And to really know that when I say, Mayor Lambert did this, I want them to say, oh yeah, Mayor Lambert, they came to my door. You know, I want them to be able to identify their local politicians, and not in a way that's like, I saw a yard sign, in a way that says, you know, I talked to them about the issues. I felt included. I felt like more than a potential vote. I feel that the people deserve that interaction, and we can give that to them.
Great. Thanks, Olivia. How about you, Jim? What does success look like? Mute.
I have a baby crying, so I had to mute that for a while. Success to me is it's like raising a family, and you need to have an organization, you need to have rules, you need to have a variety of other things to make that family function. The family will meet together to discuss the various and sundry things that need to be dealt with as they get older. The parents and at least in my case, the parents and the teenagers would meet and discuss whatever the issues are that the teenagers have without any heavy-handedness, if you will. And so they know they have their parents are fair and balanced, if you will. I've heard that before. And you want them to grow and develop to achieve success. And as you have taught them to achieve success, and success is not always, I guess you could say, getting the job done, because a lot of times getting the job done is backwards. So you've done something that need not be done. And so when you, like Moscow right now, I love the city, and people, even I'm a Texan by birth. My brothers and the rest of the family, why? It's cold up there and so forth. But we are all we all bleed red. We need to become more like a family, as opposed to enemies. And we shouldn't have any enemies in this community. We should all be family in getting along, helping each other, accomplishing things that need to be accomplished. Working together is success. Whereas the way things are going is not successful, because there are too many opposing voices with too much hate in their voice to accomplish anything.
Okay, thanks, Jim. We're going to have to cut you off there. So thanks for that response. Barb, how about you? What does success look like?
Well, success for me would look like a community that's working for everybody, that includes everybody, that listens to everybody and gets to the bottom of issues, providing information from all perspectives, not censoring one half of the conversation. Success to me would be getting our government that works. Well, it's kind of a repeat of what I was saying, but I want to make it easier for people to just start a business and keep a business running and get into, some spirited competition that's not hurtful kind of competition. That's not the right word, but I want a community that people feel that they belong to, that all people feel like they belong to. I don't know. I could probably do better on that answer, but I want to see our community.
Okay. Thanks, Barb. And then Art,
Yeah,
what is success?
well, when I first fetched up here in Moscow back in 1972, it was a way different place than it is now. And frankly, I like the way different place that we are now better than it was back then. We were a small agricultural community back then, and things have changed quite a lot. And to me, success means that we've been on the right track, doing very good things across many administrations of city government. But to me, what success looks like going forward, not just where we are now, but in more tangible terms, is broadening our economic base, bringing in some more basic fundamental industry into town, which also necessitates more housing for people, preferably affordable housing, preferably infill type housing. It also means things like we have to find alternative sources of water, because we can't conserve ourselves into growth relative to water. We have to get going on some of the Water, Palouse Basin Aquifer Committee's recommendations. We also have to get going and complete our airport and get that up and running, because it's our only major access to transportation out of the area. And at the same time, I still think we need to work very hard on maintaining a sense of place for all of the citizens here in Moscow. City events like Farmers Market, Art Walk, Light Up the Night, other issues like that that brings the community together. Issues and events like the Vandaltown Block Party, where we try to bridge the gap between the university and the city, bringing people more together. And also to add that the city government, I think, does a pretty good job of listening to everybody. And just because one particular person's opinion does not carry the day and generate actuality, does not mean that that opinion was not listened to very carefully and considered during deliberations.
Thanks, Art. And before we kind of leave this topic of skills and some of your leadership traits, we've had some Q&A come into the Q&A box. And I want to just ask you, Barb, because you've said this a few times, you sort of have made this notion about distinguishing yourself from politicians. And the question was, what's so bad about politicians? What experiential qualities do you have that would enable you to effectively serve as mayor, an elected and inherently political governmental position? So again, I'm asking you, Barb, because you've put it out there, and we've had some membership asking that question. So I'll give you 30 seconds.
Well, what's so bad about politicians? I think right now they're leading us down kind of the wrong path. I don't have a lot of trust for our municipal corporate government. I think that it's bringing in a lot of federal programs that are not good for the community. I think it brings in a lot of federal money that kind of controls the conversation. What would I bring to it? Well, I think that I have the determination to get to the bottom of some of the things that have not been solved, such as the traffic issues. I think downtown traffic, I think, was better when the timing of the lights was the old way. There's quite a bit of things that we need to get more information on, instead of just one side of the agenda, basically.
Okay. Thanks, Barb. Appreciate that. Okay, we're going to move on to a couple questions around the community, and more specifically the chamber and the role of the chamber. So this is kind of a quick question, and you don't have to use 2 minutes, but I'll start with you, Jim. Give me 3 of your favorite things about Moscow, whether it's people, places, events, or whatever. 3 things, your favorite things. And let's unmute you one more time.
Oh, sorry. Well, the people, definitely. And that's one of the things that I enjoy about Moscow, the camaraderie, the differences of opinion, the way people are not, a lot of people are not concerned with how some people dress or color their hair or whatnot. They just look at them as another individual doing what that individual would like to do. And the farmers market, I like going up and down the corridor there, the smells and the various things put out for you to taste or test or purchase if you would like. Mm-hmm. And another thing that I like about Moscow is Moscow in and of itself is a very family-oriented, family-friendly town, put it that way. And that's why people move here, because they know, or they've found out that Moscow is a good place to live. Back a few years ago, Moscow was probably one of the #1 places in the country to move to. And when that came out, I think people started looking at Moscow, and families wanted to move here.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Art, how about you?
3
favorite
things.
things.
I have to pick 3, huh? Jeez.
Yeah, just make it 3.
Agreed, hard. First off, I like Moscow's sense of artistic community. It gives Moscow a real identity, having the heart of the arts motto and actually fulfilling that. That's really great for me. I also truly enjoy the parks and path system that we have going here. The ability to go out on a walk and get all over town without doing a whole lot of intersection crossing. That's also really good. And I also like the climate. And by climate, I mean both the fact that we have 4 seasons here, which I really, really enjoy, but I also mean the cultural climate, where Moscow is a town of great diversity. You can find all kinds of people here, same as any large city. And by and large, everybody gets along very, very well with each other. And I appreciate that attitude in all 3 of those areas from my point of view.
Thanks, Art. How about you, Barb?
So I like the diversity too. I've always enjoyed the diversity and the acceptance that's been in here. I love our rolling hills and the sunsets and sunrises that come over them. Just, it's a beautiful place to be, especially in the springtime. It's very beautiful. And it's a really safe community. Sometimes not so much, but it's very safe. You can walk downtown in the middle of the night and not have to worry about things. You can go for long walks, not have to worry about things. So yeah, that's what I enjoy about Moscow. I love Moscow.
Thanks, Barb. And then Olivia.
Well, I think I really love the organizations that are helping make it such a vibrant town. I think we have 3 or 4 different swing dance clubs that meet. I know Brokeback Palouse is a wonderful dance group. We're keeping the town rocking and hopping. And
Wait. What is that one called?
Brokeback Palouse, the last one.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks,
wonderful group. And I think that, we have a vibrant community because we celebrate lots of things and we celebrate our growers. So definitely our local farmers are one of my favorite things. The kind of folks who will give you great produce and slide in a little bit of, holy basil because you've never tried it before and they want you to try it. And that's just fabulous, And I think that we have this wonderful community of students as well at the University of Idaho and WSU who, in my experience, at every opportunity are willing to help us make a better community through volunteering, through lots of different community initiatives. And we are really lucky to have that. And it's one of the things I really love.
Great. Thank you. Thanks you all. That great responses. And it always gets me excited about why I love this community too. We're a pretty cool college town. We are certainly not Madison, Berkeley, Boulder, or where Austin or whatever, but we're Moscow and that's pretty dang cool. So thank you for that. So I want to ask you a little bit about your chamber. Tell us what you know, and I'll start with you, Barb. Tell us what you know about the Moscow Chamber, the role it plays or should play in the community, and any awareness that you have around the recent rebranding efforts. And again, it's really about connectivity, vibrancy, community engagement, and business advocacy. So again, what's your experience with the chamber, and just give me your thoughts on that.
I actually know very little about the chamber. It does serve the community. I know that it's a more private sort of organization, and it helps businesses out, gets the word out about the businesses, and gets the word out about the candidates. But other than that, I don't know too much about the chamber.
Okay, there's an opportunity, Sam. Just a little FYI. Okay. Jim, how about you?
Well, this chamber here, I don't know that much about. I interacted with other chambers of commerce in other cities. They promote business. They try to establish, at least the ones I've worked with, try to establish a reasonable doorway between politics and the business situation. Moscow in and of itself depends quite a lot on the university, and we need business. And the chamber, I know, is working on bringing business into the community, but we need business that our young people will not leave, where our young people will not leave the area. They will stay here and raise their own family and stay with and be connected with their family. The chamber is a very. It's not an organization that's visible. I get you to say it for the most part, because a lot of chambers are small and they try to interact with the city and commerce, but a lot of times the mark is missed.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Olivia.
Most of my experience working with the local chamber has been through initiatives around like buying local. And I know that you all, wonderful folks, are out here helping promote that economic vibrancy and trying to, and kind of that downtown vibrancy that I think we were talking about in previous questions. Kind of serving as a way for the downtown businesses to work together and have kind of a voice, and a really nice office and face as well. And kind of, it's also their investment in the community, in my opinion, through things like this is a great example. It's, I think, a really wonderful statement that the businesses here are invested in the community and here to be a mutual part in building its vibrancy.
Yeah, great, Olivia. Thank you. And then Art, how about you?
Well, I know a little bit about the chamber. I'm a member myself, and I appreciate everything that the chamber does for us through their monthly meetings, touching base, each on a different topic relevant to the business community in the city. The chamber is basically there to be business supportive, to provide support for businesses, resources for the business, and to a great extent, and the ability to network among businesses to try to find other businesses where synergies can result to the benefit of both the businesses and the rest of the community. The chamber also acts as a bit of a front door to our community. They're the visitors center in Moscow. They have every brochure owned regional humankind available to put out for people to inform you about where everything is in town, what's happening in town. They also serve to be a place where businesses interested in coming to town can first land, touch base, and find the information they need. Similarly, it's not just businesses, it's residents. First place potential residents tend to go is to the Chamber of Commerce to find out who the realtors are, where the good deals on housing are, things like that. And so the chamber actually functions not only as a nexus for business, but also as the welcome mat for Moscow and potential residences and businesses who would like to come here.
Great, thanks, Art. And I have a question that came in, and it's still on this this notion of community. And we've seen a lot of divisive politics of late, whether it's COVID related or just our political stripes. And this question from a member is, what or how do you believe is the best way to bring those extreme oppositions together? And again, I'm asking you as the potential mayor of Moscow. So bringing those extreme oppositions together, and how will you approach this in our community? And I'll start with you, Art.
Well, sometimes being mayor, when you're in between two polar opposite factions, doesn't so much resemble a place where you can come together and find common ground. It's more like no man's land in World War I, where you're catching it from both sides, really. But what you can do, in my opinion, is to demonstrate to everybody that they're being heard. Your opinions are valuable. We hear what you're saying. We might not be able to do everything you would like to have done. We might not be able to adhere directly to your point of view, whatever that may be. Sometimes there are constraints because of finances, whether or not we can get things done. Sometimes there's ideological constraints where people on each extreme absolutely will not be convinced of what the other is saying. And so it is up for the people in the middle, the mayor, the city council, to listen to what people have to say, to garner the best ideas that can be had from the people, but mostly to assure them, yes, we hear what you're saying. Yes, we're trying to do the best that we can, but there are constraints, and we have to consider what the opinion is of everyone in town and not just of any particular group. We need to hear it from everyone.
Thanks, Art. Olivia, what about this idea of creating that culture of community?
So I think when we talk about this notion of polar opposites and the divisiveness that the dialogue sometimes creates when there is polar opposites in the room, and the slowing or the inability to complete anything as a government when this happens. And we also know that there are people who are left out of the system. And so how can these conversations keep happening at the same time? This duality, these oppositions are real, yes, and they're valid, and people need to feel heard. But the emphasis upon that dichotomy has left so many people out of this conversation for so long that I feel like what we need to do, perhaps, And what I would do as a mayor, since I guess the question is specifically in that regard, is if we're going to have this attitude of listening to everybody, making a community for everybody, then that doesn't mean you set a table for everybody knowing full well that the table you've created only makes room for the 2 loudest voices. We need to make a table for everyone. And that means being able to address negative behaviors. If people can't share a table, then we need to be able to address those behaviors as adults that are causing that to happen. It's not a difference of ideological opinion if people are unable to act civilly, respect people's choices, and be able to get out of their comfort zone to be able to talk about things as important as our community health.
Great. Thanks, Olivia. How about you, Jim?
Well, one of the things that people have concerns about is the truth. What is the truth? And since I taught history and government in my teaching days, there is a truth. There is an absolute truth. And the thing is, you need to get the parties to understand and know what the actual truth is. Some may not accept it right away, and maybe they will. You don't know until you put forth an effort to accomplish this task. Another way to accomplish this, I think, is for the mayor and city council to get out into the public and see what is actually going on within the city, and maybe have I don't know if there maybe a block party or something like this, where different parts of the city is blocked off for a few hours, where people can interact and meet and talk with the governor or in the city council to see what the hot button issues are in their surrounding. And as you become aware of what the problems or hot button issues are, you're better able to focus your energies on what the results would be. And your results should be a community that's more neighborly. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going, probably won't happen during a term of the mayor. But you need to get something started from that point of view, in my estimation.
Thanks, Jim. And then finally, you, Barb. How about you, thinking about this notion of community building or rebuilding, in these sort of divisive times?
Well, I think the big issue is building back trust. I think that if I was mayor, I would want to present a variety of opinion or information to people so that they could help to understand what's going on, and you have everybody's pertinent information and I don't know. I would just want to bring everything to the table that's pertinent and let people suss it out, and then hear what's going on with the community. And I don't know, we just have to build back some trust in what's going on, because too many times I've seen people try to talk to the city council and they just get ignored and one side of the agenda gets pushed. And I would want to get out there into the community and find out what people's opinions are and talk to them and engage with them. And I'm not afraid of loud voices. I think that you don't want to censor anybody's opinions.
Great, thanks, Barb. Thanks, great responses, everybody. Now I want to talk about an area that kind of excites me a little bit, and that's around business and economic vitality. So we've got a couple questions posed by chamber members, and this first one, I'm going to start with you, Art. do you think our main street and our downtown is healthy and successful? And if not, what would you do to change that?
Well, there we get back again. What's your definition of success? We
Exactly,
discussed that a little
right?
bit earlier on, but in terms of having completely full street fronts, we do pretty well. There are empty street fronts, and there always will be as people and businesses come and go. However, I think if you look at downtown on most any night, weekend or weekday, the place has cars parked, people are moving around, the lights are on, and stuff is happening all the time. You compare this to some of our other neighboring communities who shall remain nameless, but tumbleweeds could blow down the middle of the street after 5 o'clock at night. So to that extent, I think through the chamber and other business people, things pick up. The businesses cooperate and collaborate with each other on various activities, things like Art Walk, Light Up the Night, the recent homecoming parade. Everybody chips in on this stuff. And I think Moscow's downtown is actually quite successful. Does that mean it can't be, like our Constitution, more perfect? No, it doesn't. The Urban Renewal Agency in the city are looking right now at redoing the entire hardscape of downtown, starting in perhaps 2023 or 2024, and revitalize the whole look of downtown with new trees, new sidewalks, new streets, everything. So the extent to which that the city can encourage and foster commerce downtown in our central business district, so much the better. We've also gone forth and put in the entertainment district where streets can be closed off and open containers can be promenaded around. And I think that's a great boost to help downtown perhaps later into evenings. There's a lot that can be done, but I think overall we're pretty darn successful, especially compared to other areas.
Thanks, Art. How about you, Barb? What do you think about downtown? Healthy, successful? Anything you'd like to change?
Well, the open container thing, I can tell you, is kind of a problem for the people who live downtown because they end up dealing with all of the beer bottles and alcohol bottles and trash that people take back to their apartment buildings. But it is nice to have an open community type atmosphere where you can go from business to business and enjoy such things as that. There was more to the question though. Can you say the question again?
Yeah, sure, Barb. Do you think our main street and downtown is healthy and successful? And if not, what would you change?
Yeah, the healthy and successful. I think that recently a lot of businesses were having a hard time, and there wasn't enough concern for what they were going through, and so they ended up being driven out, and that kind of adds to a lot of discomfort that's already going down there. I don't, yeah. I would like to see us be able to start businesses again, easily again, and maintain them, keep them running easily. I would like, oh, I'm up, my time is up, but
You have 30 minutes. You have 30 seconds, Barb. Go ahead, finish.
Well, I don't know. I think that our businesses, small businesses, I think our small businesses are very important. And we're kind of headed towards a manufacturing shortage too. So it'd be nice to see us be able to start that kind of stuff up in Moscow too.
So again, more attention to small business, especially coming out of the pandemic.
Yes,
right?
And just being able to start them up easily and keep them going. I think that everybody should have an opportunity to at least try, or at least, dream about starting a small business, and it gets kind of complicated.
Sure. Thanks, Barb. Olivia, how about you? Downtown, healthy, successful, what would you change or leave it alone?
Well, I think that it's important to answer the two questions perhaps present there about the success and the health. Speaking intimately, you can definitely have a successful day without having a healthy day. Um, and I think that we have these fabulous farmers markets. We have these wonderful events. We have people who are congregating for these wonderful events and the art galleries and such. We also have people who are living in low-income housing downtown that are lacking all like necessities, basically. Like whether it be at the Moscow Hotel or at the apartments known as Y and Z. Like we have people in this main business district that we talk about who, while we talk about beer bottles without lids, they're like actively in recovery, and some of the only places that folks in recovery are being sent. We have some great businesses downtown that are able to contribute to the health and success, and bring those two together, because so often they are separate and it's not necessarily individual business owners' faults. Working with plenty of restaurants over the years, I have seen that I don't know, restaurateurs aren't given a guide on how they can be a part of helping their city, even just with their food waste, let alone with other aspects. We see Cafe Artista doing suspended coffees. There were several people who I've served over the past 2 years who have been staying the night in the winter in Friendship Square, and the bagel shop employees have been happy to get them sandwiches. That to me says health and success. And so I want to be able to empower new businesses that are coming in or starting up, or existing businesses, to be as successful as they can be in the healthiest environment possible. Because the reality is healthier employees and a healthier climate in that regard is healthier and more successful for everyone. It's statistically proven, and we all know it to be true.
Thanks, Olivia. And then Jim, how about you?
Well, success, yes. Health, that would depend on the circumstance. And what Olivia said, yeah, there could be healthy days and there could be successful days, but health is something that is crucial to me, primarily because of what Olivia said about people who are living downtown, living on the street, or living with next to nothing. Because I've delivered food to people in the downtown area who have been, I guess you could say, put out of the mind as far as the government is concerned, because the government, to me, is not helping as they should, as far as that is concerned. But as far as the businesses themselves, I think they will flourish and become even more active in the downtown area. And as far as the container issue is concerned, I always look at things from the point of view of the youth, and young people, but not necessarily toddlers, but older youngsters who see this type of thing, and even if they're down there regularly, they'll think that's something that is a daily thing, and maybe in the long run it may be problematic for them. So I see that particular issue as a problem. Just and as Barb said, there's the garbage.
Okay, thank you all. Great answers, and obviously, yeah, it's a gem for us downtown, but always work to do. I want to continue on, and we've had some Q&As around this topic. So, but this was a question posed by a chamber member. The city invests in economic development organization, one of which initiated an assessment of available housing stock. Unsurprisingly, it concluded that Moscow needs additional affordable, or as I say, attainable housing. Nonetheless, recently approved housing projects are far from affordable. What would you do as mayor to address that? So again, talk about some of the challenges we face with affordable, attainable workforce housing. And as mayor, how would you lead that conversation in Moscow? And I will start with you, Olivia.
Thank you. Well, I think for starters, I think where we often talk about city councilors or mayors taking an active role in talking with business and seeking out a business and industry that fits the culture of the town. If we have a culture that is dedicated to making sure that our working families and our people of our town are housed, period, and are able to have housing that is dignified and safe and comfortable to the level that we all take somewhat for granted, perhaps on this call, if we are able to get to that point, that is that attainable housing. And that is the end goal. So we should be, as leadership, reaching out to nonprofit groups, other cities that have had massive success in working with a mixture of nonprofit and for-profit agencies to build affordable housing, to make zoning ordinances and incentives and changes in tax code that have seen positive change. And I personally, I can make a phone call, I can wait on hold, I can call these cities, see what's working for them, see what's not working for them, but we need to have that focus first, I think.
Thanks, Olivia. How about you, Jim?
It's baby again, but taxes, yes, need to be discussed. Taxes, the RN fees, and when the people are like coming out of this COVID thing, and then the city will be asking for an increase in taxes maybe later this year or next year. I think it's unfair to the business owners, because they cannot contribute to something if they are having difficulty making ends meet themselves. And so the city needs to take another look, a hard look at how they're taxing the businesses, what the fees, and how the fees they're being generated. And as far as people who are having issues, I've seen people who have put into the housing and not be successful in acquiring it. Because I've had a family member who recently put in for that and could not get it, and this person has a child. So we need to look deep. We need to look deeper into our own hearts to accomplish the thing that we know is right, and so that we can move forward as a city that actually cares for its people.
Okay, thanks, Jim. How about you, Barb? Housing, how do you address it, tackle it, affordable, attainable? I mean, we're a bit out of balance, wouldn't you say?
We're very out of balance. Yeah, I would like to get to the bottom of the rent, the high rent issue. I understand why it would be high right now, but it never really seems to fluctuate over the last many years. So it would be nice to get to the bottom of that and find out what is holding it there. But I would like to see some more trailer parks be allowed to come in. I know that there's some concern with trailer parks, but it seems to me that we can keep drugs and such out of the trailer parks, and just because it's a trailer park doesn't mean that it's trashy or you know, the stereotypical idea of trailer parks. But I think that everybody needs the opportunity to buy a house with land to it, so they can till it up and plant a garden if they want, so they can have pets if they want. So affordable housing, right now, there's something going on with, I guess what Moscow calls affordable housing. It sounds like it's a HUD project, which is a federal program that probably brings in federal money. All right, my time is up, but it doesn't really make sense because it costs $200,000 supposedly to buy yourself in and you don't own it. And when you leave, you lose that money. So I don't know how that is affordable or even ethical.
Okay, thanks, Barb. And then how about you, Art?
This is a really thorny issue that is like squeezing a balloon. You squeeze it in one place and it poofs out in another. And trying to track it all down at once is difficult. First off, I think calling it affordable or attainable housing creates a misapprehension in people's minds. I think housing implies to people 3 bedrooms, 2 baths on a lot. And what we need to do if we're going to speak about affordable or attainable, we have to talk about dwelling units, which implies greater density, more like condos or townhomes. And I don't think that given the cost of land and the availability of land, that providing separate space for everyone is an attainable object. Community gardens might help with that. Parks definitely help with that. But what we need to do is go through and increase density, do some infill, go back to areas of town that are brownfields and put in some residences for people. And they're going to have to be higher density because otherwise the cost is going to go through the roof. We're surrounded by farmland and we want to limit sprawl. And also we are dependent upon the landowners in these areas around the city to provide the land upon which houses can be built. And if they aren't going to provide the land, we can't make them. Idaho law is very specific about rights of private property owners and when a development occurs. And the nature of that development depends very much on the landowner or the developer. The city has very little influence there. What the city can do is partner with the Urban Renewal Agency to try to bring increased density and increased housing to the Legacy Crossing area between downtown and the university and develop some housing there. But it's going to have to be a more urban feel to it, especially if you want to maintain attainable or affordable natures to that. There's also the question about just how much on the hook existing homeowners who are taxpayers should be paying to assist people into getting a home that they were unable to attain themselves. They had to pull themselves by their own bootstraps. And I can see a lot of resistance in the community of people paying for housing for others. Not to say that we can't do things, but that's the constraints under which we have to operate with the Local Land Use Planning Act and Idaho law.
Okay, thanks, Art. So again, lots more discussion on that topic for sure. I think we've all agreed on that. This has to do with growth because again, we've seen recently letters to the editor kind of tying growth and water supply together. Our 2020 census numbers puts Moscow's population at 25,435. And again, when you compare the decades, so it's a 10-year look, the 2010 census, that's essentially about a 0.6 annual growth rate from 1910. Is that comfortable? Do you think it's too much, or should we be more amenable to growth? What's everybody's thought on that? And I'll start with you, Jim.
Well, I think the growth should be to start with the business climate, and maybe look at the zoning and see what could be done to allow businesses to move into the area with maybe certain incentives. Who know, that's just how the business situation works for the most part. And we need to let the people know what we're going to do. We need to get in touch with the people because right now the university, like I said earlier, the university was one of the primary the reasons that Moscow is actually here. And a lot of the other businesses serve the university, and we need to get away from the service of an entity to having other entities that are a standalone of their own industry or technology, whatever the case might be. That needs to be addressed, as far as I'm concerned, before anything else can be done, because you can't bring jobs into an area unless you have business to support it.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Barb, how about you?
I agree with Jim. Yeah, I would like to see some manufacturing jobs kind of come into this area, and lots of small businesses. Yeah, we need. It's it's an issue where you want to bring lots of voices and work on issues, but that's pretty much it.
Okay, thanks, Barb. How about you, Art? 0.6% of growth annually. Does that feel like we're exploding like Kootenai County or Treasure Valley, or is that a I hate to use the word sustainable, is that a growth rate that we can continue to provide services for?
Well, I think 0.6% might have been a little bit of an undercount because the count was going on at the same time COVID hit real hard.
Yeah.
So I think we missed a fair number of people we would otherwise have got. But nonetheless, Moscow's been showing since 1900 about 1% per year. I think it continues. But until you get to about 5%, growth is pretty much manageable and sustainable. Once you get to Coeur d'Alene or Ada County levels, you can't keep up in any kind of rational management fashion for the community development people, for the engineering people, for traffic prediction models. It all goes off the hook. It's a mess. But 1% is perfectly manageable. And right now, I think there's a great perception in town. People think that growth is going nuts. But really, with the annexations and subdivisions that we've been seeing recently, it represents merely a backlog of development that's been waiting to happen. There's been nothing happening since probably 2006, just before the Great Recession, and we've never caught up. And so now suddenly the developers see an opportunity. There's annexations and perceived development, but it doesn't happen all at once. It's just a backlog of things beginning to move through the system slowly. And all of this can be managed very well with the resources we have in hand. And really, I like the slow, stately pace of growth that we see in Moscow, because really we can handle it, get in front of it, and do development the right way.
Thanks, Art. Olivia.
I am not able to quickly crunch the numbers real quick, run it through some models. But I will say this, if we're actively having a conversation about growth that is centered around, do we have enough apartment buildings for new workers? And is it going to cost too much for the people who worked hard enough already to get a house? See, I think this is odd to me, because you don't bring new people, new jobs to a place without new businesses. We don't bring new jobs without places for people to stay. And what we have is people who are looking for places to stay starting now, like people who are staying in motels, in their cars right now. There is a need for more dense housing. This is a real thing. But having the conversation like we're talking about, being those who were here first. Let's be clear. We've seen how the housing market has been in Moscow over even the past 5 years. It is not that anyone pulled their bootstraps harder or less hard. If you were here even a few years ago, your advantage in your land value is just going to be at a situation where you could get into it easier then than people can get into it now. It's as simple as that. And I feel like to be able to have an honest conversation in that way requires that acknowledgement. It requires understanding that we have to have these basic needs for folks met, and it open for these people to come to the table and to have this housing.
Okay, and then just a little follow-up, and this is just a quick answer if you can. Who pays for growth? I mean, in your mind, who pays for that growth? And Olivia, I'll start with you.
So I think we all pay for growth, in different ways, in the sense that, like Art said, there's obviously like a tax cost. There's like a cost to each individual who's a taxpayer in this town now when we grow. But if we look at the history of this town, growth was defined very differently. If we go to the Latah Historical Society, great organization, you'll find that Moscow was originally owned by a small handful of families who understood that growth came from letting other people have space, to have land, to be able to build. If it weren't for those people and their decision making, we wouldn't have the growth. Now, from the mindset of these were independent business owners giving up their land so that other people could have it, commie socialism. But the reality is that attitude built growth, built on economic success, and built this community. And I think that is the mindset. Who pays for growth? We all do. But how about instead, who gets to have the opportunity to pave the way for new people in this community? And who gets the opportunity to uphold the promise that we made to people who are currently in this community? Because that sounds like a thrilling opportunity. I love to be a part of it.
Thanks, Olivia. Art, how about you?
Who pays for growth? Well,
Who does? Yeah.
we do. Moscow is much in the same situation as Olivia just brought up, with the small number of landowners who hold the land. Only they aren't sharing it for free anymore, because you can't. You have to be able to pay for the infrastructure and other development associated with taking a piece of bare land and turning it into a place to live. So who pays for that? The landowner or the developer pays for it in hopes to recoup their investment through the sale of individual housing units. And of late, that's become very difficult because of supply chain difficulties and the cost of building materials, and the prices skyrocketed. So how do you find a way to provide affordable housing? We've got the Moscow Affordable Housing Trust. We have Habitat for Humanity, but they can't possibly accommodate all of the needs that are present. So who pays for it? Under our current model, it's the people who are willing to foot the upfront capital to do the construction with the hopes of recouping that money. Landlords who still have older houses that are built on wooden foundations, they're a little bit of a different story. I think they're a little bit poaching on society here and need to rethink their rents relative to the quality of the dwelling unit they provide. How do we get around that? The city isn't in the housing building and development process. We rely on developers and landowners to do that for us under the rules and ordinances established by the city for coordination of buildings.
Thanks, Art. How about you, Barb?
Well, I'm kind of wondering where all of this growth is coming from, in that I think that we had a humongous influx of people who are fleeing from other states, mostly because of the COVID things that are going on. You got to wonder, are they going to stay here if things go back to normal where they came from? And certainly, if anybody is looking to invest in property, certainly buying property in California is probably a good investment right now, because most of the Californians came here, I think. But who pays for it? Well, it's the people who are doing the growth, I believe. But I kind of wonder how many people are actually going to stay in Idaho if things go back to normal where they came from. So.
Okay, thanks, Barb. Jim, how about you?
Look at the apartments that are around the area here. And I was raised in Dallas, and looking at the apartments around the area here, there are, in my estimation, it's very high. It's a high dense area, and are all these apartments being utilized? I don't know. I don't think anyone in particular knows except those landlords. But we need to talk with maybe the property managers see what kind of properties that they have, see what kind of circumstance or conditions would they rent to someone who is a low income or such. But who pays for it? We all pay for it, and it doesn't matter if you are the person who puts up the money, one that puts up the land, or the people who pay the taxes. We all pay for it in one way or another, and that's just how things have always been.
Okay, thanks, Jim. And we do have some questions in the Q&A, and I'll try to blend those in as I can. We had another question, and again, there was a Q&A post as well, but I want you to talk a little bit about the town-gown relationship. So essentially, the relationship the city and the university have. How large a role does the University of Idaho play in our local community and our economy? And as mayor, how do you see the city, the university, and the chamber partnering going forward? And give me a few ideas. And I'm going to start with you, Barb.
I think the university has always been pretty important to the city of Moscow. It started out more as a farming community. Right now, I think there's some issues that are going on with higher education, and it might end up breaking down into other ways of teaching. It depends on what we're going into in the future, but the role between Moscow and the university is pretty important. Sorry, that's
okay.
All I have to say.
That's great. Thanks. How about you, Jim? Got to unmute.
Well, like I said earlier, the university is one of the primary reasons that Moscow even exists here, and we have a lot of our local government depends on it to a certain degree, and a lot of businesses depend on it because they service the university in one way or another. And we need to look at what's going on at the universities anymore. It's not a learning climate like it used to be. It's more of a social climate, if you will. A lot of the students who I've interacted with, and I've interacted with quite a few over the years, they have issues with authority. They have issues with holding a job. They have issues thinking they should have something just because they want it. That's been an issue with me as far as university students is concerned. But like I said, the university is a primary reason that Moscow is here.
Jim, I kind of want to better understand that comment you made about, social issues, and is the university not fulfilling its mission as an institution of higher education? Is that what you're saying? And
for the most part, I would say no, primarily because the universities are putting, I'm not going to say that all fields are this way, but universities was a place where you had diversity of thought. And if you had a diversity, you had an issue that someone else did not relish. You did not tear down their if you want platforms off a bulletin board or things of this nature. We've gotten to the point where young people are becoming more so destructive because of how they're being, in my estimation, how they're being taught. Yes, there's an issue there.
So give me a couple ideas about how to better partner then. I mean, as mayor, I mean, what would you do? Is it just trying to collaborate on just some services, whether it's fire, policing, infrastructure, what?
It would be talking with the professors, because they are the ones I think that are putting a lot of these thoughts into a lot of these kids' heads. A lot of them come there with mindsets of oh gosh, because they've been given everything and trophies that they didn't deserve and things of this nature. Like, these are the things that I think are causing problems within our young people's circumstance, and nobody's actually seemingly but wanting to address it. People want to talk about things that are not relevant, as opposed to things that is. Like I talked with some of the kids here in Moscow, are some of the brightest kids I've talked with out of the high school, because I've interacted with them since 2004, as well as Troy and Genesee, and I listened to them talk about how other kids outside of the area have certain problems that causes our universities need to be overhauled. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. Good. All right. Thanks, Art. And then we'll go to Olivia. But Art, how about you?
Yeah, town gown. Yeah. So we're deeply integrated, these two institutions, the municipality and the university. For years, we've been part of essentially the university's economy. Where the university went, so went we. But it's been good for all these years. We've got faculty and staff who live in town. They spend money on businesses in town. Without the university, we wouldn't have the faculty and staff to support businesses. When you come to students, students are fantastic importers of cash. They don't have jobs. Well, some do, but a lot more bring in money from mom and dad, and that's free money to the city. And that does very well for business community. We also have our contractual agreements with the university for police and for fire. We also are deeply integrated in terms of the wastewater treatment plant. The water systems are interconnected. The effluent from the treatment plant goes to water the arboretum and the golf course and the play fields. So the university and the city have a very deep connection financially, as well as in terms of infrastructure and contracts. I think fostering some more of the social cross-connectivity is good. The Vandaltown Block Party and then the spring events at the university are examples of that. I would like to see, if I were mayor, to sit down with the administration at the university to see about developing legacy crossing land that the university owns and turn that into more housing for faculty, staff, and putting in some mixed-use developments alongside those for more commercial development, as well as residences for those who want a more urban form to their lifestyle in the area between the student bookstore and downtown. And I think all of this can be accomplished to further strengthen the relationship between the university and the city.
Great. Thanks, Art. And Olivia, you look like you've been chomping at the bit here, so fire away.
Thank you. Well, I'd first like to thank you for clarifying the question, because I think the question was the one you were asking, or at least that's the way that it was turning into. So I appreciate the clarification.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, first of all, these are not kids. These are grown adults starting at 18 years old who are working members of the community, anywhere from 1 to 3 jobs. They are not just mommy and daddy's money. They are not just the occasional vote. They are not disobedient children that you'll just go talk to their professors or the administration. I'm sure that'll sort it out. You realize they have a student government that is recognized and has even gone to states and talked with them about like their campus's needs. How often does city council members, city council or the mayor go and talk with ASUI, go and meet with any of these clubs that help keep the campus running with administrators to see this population as a problem and that this university is some kind of social hindrance to us is absolutely ridiculous. And it also, honestly, the fact that we're talking about the student housing, those apartments, is not a mystery. Those apartments are all filled. I live there. I've lived in these student apartments for years. There are families with 4 kids in these single and 2-bedroom apartments. There are people who have come from towns where their houses have burnt down or where they've been priced out of even small towns and they're just trying to come here. I think what we need to do and what I would do is make college students know that as adults, they are members of this community in more than just their pocketbooks.
Okay. Thank you. Great responses there. So thank you all. We're going to shift a little bit now and talk infrastructure, which is big. And again, one of my favorite topics. The city of Moscow offers some robust water conservation measures that are making a difference in the per capita consumption of water. And as a chamber, we applaud these efforts. However, the region's deep aquifer, the Grand Ronde, continues to steady slow decline. The Palouse Basin Aquifer Committee has been refining potential alternative water supplies to help augment it. Is this important? Are we doing enough? Should we do more? Is this a priority? How do we create a larger conversation? Or do you think we have enough awareness now and we just need implement more water conservation or what? And I'm going to start with you, Olivia.
Yes, it's definitely an issue and definitely something to be talked about now from, I guess, the reports or the report like that I've seen and the conversations I've had. 30 years keeps popping up. And okay, well, sounds like it's time to get started now. At the University of Idaho, where I have my degrees from, I was able to learn about like the environmental costs of acting late. The environmental costs of acting now are always exponentially less than what they will be tomorrow. We need to start having zoning that like incorporates sustainable water use. We need to start thinking about those developments, those housing developments in those terms of sustainable water use. And then of course, obviously doing what we can to talk to individual water users. And that's not just trying to push nice new Kenmore appliances onto people and then have those folks post their old stuff on Craigslist to go into like the lower income homes and still be taking just as much energy and to be just as much of a problem. But some people certainly feel better about it and have nicer washers and dryers. What we need is to have real conversations about how we can subsidize and supplement and help working families who want to be a part of the solution as well for a sustainable water future for their children and their grandchildren.
Thanks, Olivia. How about you, Barb? Water. Let's talk about it.
Well, it's kind of interesting, some of the information on the aquifers. Nobody knows where that water comes from or really what's going on down there. I've heard various information about how much water we have left down there. Having said that, though, I think that it would be nice to have some investment in I don't know, water collection off of your roof or something, if you choose that, if you have a system that works for that. If it doesn't work, though, then there's no sense in in investing money into it. And there's a lot of fear that comes with this this issue. And I never trust when government is trying to sell me fear. So it sounds like we're not in danger of running out anytime soon of the water that we have in the 4 aquifers. But well, like this year, they were trying to say that we were in a really bad drought, and they're talking about climate change. And as I understand it, we are going into a grand solar minimum where it's going to get cooler and harder to grow things. So which way is it? Which, should we believe the government narrative that's pushing fear? I don't know. So it'd be nice to get to the bottom, and you want to get people together who have various opinions and not censor anybody and just push the government agenda.
Yeah, Barb, I want to follow up with you, because this notion of, is the government creating fear around water? And I guess being involved in this issue, I would argue not, but I would just say the government has been providing good information, accurate information. And I think what we're seeing in the media is concern by community members that all this additional growth, and are they addressing water as that growth continues to happen? So I guess my question is, what does a good conversation around water look like to you? And, is it something that you as a mayor might be willing to have a conversation with the development community, the greater community, about what does good growth look like, and how do they need to mitigate for water?
Well, I think there are concerns about water. I think that it's valid to be concerned about water. It's valid to be concerned about our aquifers. And
Sure.
I'm not saying that the people who are involved, like you, with the aquifer information are lying or trying to mislead the public. But I'm saying that there has been, over the last, dozen years, there has been a lot of fear pushed on this issue. And I don't think that that's appropriate. I don't think that it's almost like it's being used as a climate crisis agenda. And I have a hard time trusting when that kind of fear is pushed at us. So I'm not saying that you don't know what you're talking about with the aquifers, but we need to get people together. We need to talk about what is going on down there, and we do need to talk to the developers. But if we're pushing a system on the developers that does not work, then what are they paying for? So we need to be talking about that as well. We need to get more information on what we should require of the developers.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that. How about you, Art?
Absolutely. I see the whole water issue centered around, at the moment, 2 major topics. One is conservation. We definitely should be continuing our conservation efforts. Despite Moscow having grown by 35% since 1992, we're using 14% less water, which is a good accomplishment, but we cannot conserve our way into continued growth and sustainability going far into the future. So we need to sit and work with the conservation efforts through subdivision and ordinances, favoring clustered development, decreasing road area and putting houses closer together, increasing green space. We also need to be working on enhancing our wisescaping, doing perhaps more ordinance language and modification of existing ordinances to minimize green grass yards and use grass only as an accent instead of the major decoration for landscaping, more xeriscaping, more plants with either drip irrigation, no irrigation at all, or natives. On the other side of the whole issue is alternative water sources. And I think the time has come for us to actually implement the construction and utilization of an alternative water source. PBAC has put forth 4 alternatives, but from my perspective at the moment, I would steer clear of 2 of them because they involve the state of Washington. And anytime you involve another state in your water issues, the amount of litigation, legalities, and water rights goes up by orders of magnitude, potentially stalling a development forever. So I'm all for the inside Idaho aspect, which would be damming up Flanagan Creek, piping it over the top, treating it, re-injecting it into the aquifer. And the information I've seen from PBAC indicate that that could supply 100% of Moscow's water needs, and then take the pressure off the aquifer, use that as needs be, but take care of it that way. Go forth with those two programs, and we need to get started on it now, because as Olivia pointed out, every year we don't do it now is a year wasted on the other end.
Great, Olivia, he was listening to you. Good. How about you? Go ahead, Olivia.
Sorry, one more time. You gotta be laughing with the first part there.
Yeah. We're just talking about water supply, water conservation. You know, are we approaching it in a measured, sustainable way? Should we be more urgent, more deliberate? You know, all of the above. So kind of give me how you rate this as a priority, I guess.
Okay. Well, water is life, and actively serving a community that does not have water in Appaloosa Court. This is a mobile home community just outside of Moscow that has not had consistent access to water for years, but certainly this summer because of the drought. I can absolutely say that it's a very pressing thing. It is perhaps the first pressing thing with shelter and supporting our folks with medical assistance and health and making sure that they feel upheld in that regard. I'm sure that'll be another question. But as far as working with other states, bureaucracy and paperwork sucks. Not having water and also damming up a creek can suck more. There are a lot of professionals on this that I look forward to talking to more on the issue.
Good, thanks. And Jim, I'm sorry, I missed you earlier. How about you? Water.
Well, I know that the aquifers are a pressing thing, and I know I think it's the 21st of this month, there are going to be some professionals here to actually discuss the aspect of the aquifers, and as far as what's down there, no one has a clue because no one knows the depth or the amount of water that is that's in there currently, and how much do we have? How many years do we have? Like Olivia said, maybe 30, maybe 40. But it's something we need to work on, and take in consideration those who are professionals to utilize their advice as far as the aquifer itself is concerned, so that we can move forward if we can cause something to happen where, well, the aquifer in and of itself, when there is a rain or even a heavy rain, to get that water into the aquifer will take, it from that point of view, takes years. And so maybe what Art said is something that needs to be put on the table, even if it involves working with another state, because without water, life isn't going to happen.
Great. Thanks, Jim, and thanks for the plug. Yeah, October 21st, 6 to 8 p.m., the virtual Palouse Basin Water Summit. This is our 18th year to have a conversation about water, what we're doing. Again, you can register out on the Palouse Basin Aquifer website or the Palouse Basin Water Summit website. There's a link. It's a Zoom webinar. So again, it's a great 2 hours. We've got a keynote, Amy Vickers, who is one of the world experts on water conservation. So if you can make it, I know the Chamber's pressing and promoting this as well, and there'll be some ads in the newspaper about it. So I just had to say that. So one other infrastructure question, and then we really need to wrap up. You guys are hanging on well. I want to talk about the Pullman-Moscow Regional Airport. And again, the Chamber supports ongoing improvements and investments being made out at our airport. And again, this This airport, although it's in Washington, is recognized as an Idaho airport as well. Our annual Chamber Legislative Survey lists this project as one of our transportation priorities. And I think Art mentioned that as a priority as well in some of his earlier comments. So where do you stand on this? You know, we've completed about $160 million of investment in the runway and taxiway, and now we're entering into a roughly $50 to $60 million new terminal. Priority makes sense. We just established a new flight to Boise. So give me a read on this. Barb, I want to start with you.
Well, I think that given how much we've grown, that the airport is important. How important? I think there's other things to focus on as well. So I don't know. As much as I would like to say that an airport is important, there's money that needs to go in other places. And I would just like to take this opportunity to say that I agree with Jim about the universities. I think the universities are failing our kids, and Moscow needs to invest in manufacturing. So, and that might be a good place for the money to go. So.
Okay, thanks, Barb. Olivia, airport.
I love flying. Who doesn't love flying? No, certainly, and engines that build local development and give people jobs are great. Is it as life-giving as water? No, but it is important. And I think it's really great because it helps give more transportation options to our students. And so we can bring more students to the universities from more places and get more of a wealth and diversity of opinion.
Thank you. How about you, Jim?
Well, the airport is important, and I'll just say, Olivia, I am one that's airplane flying out, because I did so much of in the military. I'd rather drive or take a train. That's just me. But the airport it is important, and it's there, and anything that needs to be done with it, as far as adding on or repairing whatever that needs, and the money's already been portioned out for it. It needs to be just that's taken and being accomplished. Are there other things? Yes, but that's for the powers that be to look at what else needs to be done, as opposed to this airport bond or whatever we want to call it right now. But it's one. What ways outweighs the other? That's something that needs to be discussed.
Okay, thanks, Jim. How about you, Art?
I like to fly, but mostly in first class if I can get it. No, the airport is absolutely essential. We have to move forward on it. The railroads have gone away. We don't have an interstate within 82 miles up in Coeur d'Alene. How else are we going to get some of the products and the people back and forth from town? The realignment of the runway and the inclusion of instrument landing systems has facilitated avoidance of delays due to weather. The performance has been really good. Unfortunately, about the time we got done with the runway, COVID hit and air traffic cratered. And so it's been very difficult to leverage our nice new runway. But with the onset of new flights down to Boise and the potential for other flights to Denver coming up in the early spring, we need a terminal that can accommodate that kind of traffic. Currently, the 8,000 some square foot terminal that we have is woefully undersized for getting people in and out of the airport. We need a bigger terminal that will support more than one flight at a time. So with that, we have $42 million that has to be spent by 2024, courtesy of the FAA, and that is a great start on building that terminal. Now, the design itself may have to accordion a bit up and down, depending on the funds that are actually available locally in order to finish the terminal. But we need to do that and then turn the old terminal back over to cargo carriers like FedEx and UPS and other cargo carriers who might wish to use that facility. But we have a good chunk of the money in hand, and we need to proceed and get that airport up and fully operational and lure in some more flights, because with two universities right next to each other and more business coming in, we absolutely need to have that kind of connectivity to the rest of the world.
Okay, thanks, Art. And again, we are near closing. This is just a quick question. And again, I think it's really important that our chamber members, again, those that have been with us tonight, I think certainly have learned a little bit more about your philosophical bents, your management style, your personalities, but how can they learn more about you? Do you have some social media presence, or how can they find out more about you? Are you on the web? Do you have Facebook? Do you have a website? Jim, how about you?
Oh yeah, well, I have a Facebook, and sometimes you may not want to go on it because some of the people that are putting comments on it, they're not nice. And so what I do is remove them and block them and just block them. So my Facebook is just Jim Gray for mayor, and my website is again jimgrayformayor.org.
Okay, thanks, Jim. How about you, Barb?
Well, I haven't been too big on social media ever, but I'm on gab.com under my name, and I have a Facebook page, but it doesn't have too terrible much on it. I haven't been reading the comments, but if you're having a horrible day and you want to take it out on somebody, well, that's bad. But I do enjoy sparring with people if they have a valid, if they have something valid to say. I've been trying to get out and talk to people going door to door and seeing what they have to say and doing my best. I'm kind of not a very good public speaker, but I don't know if you guys have noticed that, but I enjoy talking with people. I enjoy hearing alternate ideas. This has actually been kind of fun, sort of. I haven't gotten on Facebook yet, so that might not be so fun. I don't know.
Well, Barb, to your credit, I enjoyed what you said earlier, that you kind of we all need to suss this out. So I like the word suss. It's kind of an old homey word. So well done. So thank you.
I like those words too.
Yeah. Art, how about you? Social media presence? I mean, how can we find out more about you?
Oh, you can't run a campaign anymore without social media, geez.
Yeah.
But I tried to keep it under control. I have a Facebook out there, Betke for Mayor, and also a website, Betke for Mayor, all one word, .org. And if anybody has any questions, I invite you to drop me a note and I'll get back to you with an answer.
Okay, thanks. Olivia, are you out there on all those social media platforms, blogging away? What are you doing?
A digital ethereal version of me does exist on the Facebooks. You go to the www.facebooks. I'm on there as a page as Olivia Moses for Mayor. We can find more information. You can message us there. We're doing like homemade yard signs and banners and stuff to kind of cut down on the waste. So if you would like to make one or message us for one, feel free to reach out. If you are on a Facebook page that has me with a lot of cute animals, you are in the right place.
Great. Okay, so we're going to close this up now. We'll give you a few minutes each to just provide some closing remarks. And as we do that, I'll remind you, if you haven't looked at the Q&A, we didn't get to all the questions. So take a minute, maybe just cut and paste if they may be helpful for future forums or conversations with the public, kind of get a sense what our chamber members are thinking about, what they want to ask you that we just unfortunately didn't get to. We ran out of time. So with that, we'll start with you, Barb. Some closing remarks.
Well, I I believe in the rights of the individual. I think the government should empower individual responsibility and not make, not force people on government dependence. Government dependence, it's helpful when things are bad, but you shouldn't be setting up situations where people are forced into a situation where they have to rely on government. It kind of takes away their own power. So I want it to be easy to start businesses. I'd like to see manufacturing come to Moscow so that we have an alternate source of income to rely on. I think that Moscow is a good place to invest in, and I love it here. I'm really sad to see my rolling hills go away with all of these ugly houses, but we can't really stop the building, and we do need to get to the bottom of the water source. We just need a lot of opinions to be brought to the table, and no censorship. That's about it that I can think of anyway.
Great, thanks, Barb. How about you, Jim? Some closing remarks.
Well, this has been informative, and we do need industry, and we need professionals to come in and like the one that's on the 21st to discuss and determine what our water needs are for the future, because without water, like I said earlier, without water, life doesn't exist. And we are, I think the panel is well informed about a lot of things. Like I said, a lot of the things that as far as some of the aspects of the discussion, I am not fully versed on, and like I said, I am not per se a politician. I'm more of a statesman type person, and but I do love it here in Moscow, and I like the family environment, and I would like that to remain, and I like the decor of the city, and I hope it remains the same.
Thank you, Jim. Olivia, how about you?
All right, thank you, and thank you all for having me. I'd love to take this last little section to address a couple of the questions I saw. My touchpad is out on this computer this time, so I scrolled as best as I could, and I'll try to synthesize all the questions into one answer. So one of the important questions was, what leadership training do I have? So I was privileged to be able to serve as a Bernie Sanders delegate for Latah County to the state convention. I've had the opportunity to serve for the past 4 years as a director of the Board for Sojourners Alliance, a transitional housing shelter. I'm an active member and co-founding member of Food Not Bombs of the Palouse. And I have worked on several initiatives, such as co-founding the Moscow Welcome Table and working with the city on a variety of different projects, including working with the university as well and having set up several food pantries. I have sat with children where their parents are in difficult court hearings. I have brought water to people who have needed it. I have gone into a town that was still smoldering. I have sat with a mother as she sobbed because she didn't have toys for her children. My leadership training comes from interacting with the people in this town who so often are not interacted with at all. Now, there's a separate question in there that directs my campaign slogan. Because of my leadership experience, I know behaviors matter. I know that what we show to children matters. Children will listen. And like Steve Covey says, it's little things. And that means holding people accountable. And if people are acting like bullies, if people are hiding behind guises of religious freedom or fear of government control to put their opinions onto others or claim that other people's truths or education is just somewhat less valid than theirs for some reason because it doesn't agree, that's nonsense, that's cultish, and I'm here to fight the cult and to save our town. Thank you.
Thanks, Olivia. And last but not least, Art, how about you?
Well, I hope not to be least. I think that we've hit my background and experience hard all night long. And what I would bring to the mayor is the fact that I already have the experience. I don't want staff to have to provide me with the experience that I need. I want to have the experience, but take direction and comments from the citizens to listen to the people who come up. The result might not always reflect people's needs, but rest assured, the voices are listened to. I bring a lot of those skills and connections into continuing Moscow's government in a sane and progressive fashion. I really don't like the thought that anybody in Moscow is treated any differently than anybody else. Everybody should have the same courtesy, the same recognition, and the same access to any city service that's out there, and be excluded from nothing. And that's really important to me too. And that includes everything from social interactions all the way up through housing. So it's just a question of how do we bring all of that off. I'm pretty much a pragmatist. I don't do a lot of delving into ideology. I find it frustrates me and tends to irritate everybody else around me when I get into that. So ideology, I tend to set aside in terms of the pragmatism in delivering the city's services. That is the main duty and goal of the city, which is to provide the services for the citizens, and to do that in an effective, efficient, and manner that really gives value back to our citizens. And so that's what I'm after.
Well, thank you, Art. And again, thank all of you on behalf of the Moscow Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank all of you, our mayoral candidates, for tonight's debate. I think we got some good information out of all of you. We kind of got a sense of how you're wired and some of the priorities and your personality. So thanks for being honest and open. Join us tomorrow night. We're going to have a Moscow City Council forum. So again, more of the same fun. We're going to have eight of those candidates on here. And so again, I anticipate it will be just as spirited and lively. There's event details on the chamber website and Facebook page for that Zoom link. And for city election information, I tell you all to go to the Latah County elections page, where you can find a calendar of upcoming deadlines, how to request an absentee ballot, and other information, including polling information. So they can be reached at 882 or 883-2249, or you can visit the Latah County website. Remember to vote. So with that, I want to thank Dre. I want to thank Sam and Aaron Hamlin, our Government Affairs Committee member, chair. And so with that, thanks everybody for joining us tonight, and we will see you all soon. So good night.
Night.
He is a pretty good moderator. He was.